Hi, my name is Brendan Lee, and in this video, I want to talk to you about what does it take to be liberated. I got a question from somebody. Hi, Brendan. Thanks a lot for the video. Can you please comment/make a video on whether there's a big difference between awakened experience and permanent enlightenment or liberation? If so, what does it take to be liberated? So to consider this question, let's just consider the question here, the first question, and then I'll talk about what does it take to be liberated. An awakening experience seems like it's just by listening to the words sounds like something temporary or like a realization, like, okay, I've become awakened. And that they can have varying degrees, and it seems like the other one is more permanent. Now, I cannot really speak with authority on the matter since I don't live in a permanent state of liberation. Kind of. These things are very challenging to talk about. Perhaps considering the story of Buddha, we could think about, all right, here's a man who saw some death at an early age and was like, I want to figure out what that is. So he set about trying to figure out and become free of death, become free of life and death. You see, I consider myself still bound by the same fears in a certain sense that, yes, life and death is still a problem. It's also not a problem, but it's a problem. It's a problem, but to this person. You see the guy here? For me, life and death is not a problem. For me. You're still confusing me with this, you see. I know that sounds weird. Or not. Maybe it fits right in your belief systems and you're like, oh, Brendan, you're correct about that. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter either way. Now, there's a story about Buddha where apparently he became completely enlightened. You see, I hear tell. Story. Completely enlightened. What's he do? He just starts walking away into the mountains. Why? Because who cares? And somebody came up to stop him and he said, why should I stop? Why shouldn't I go? Nobody will get it. And apparently the person said, somebody might. And he said, you're right. Somebody might. So he stopped walking and then taught until he died. Why? Who cares? See? Go off into the mountains. Leave everybody. Die. Okay. Stick around. Teach. Die. Okay. See, so that suggests some degree of freedom that most people don't experience. You know, and that suggests something, that it really doesn't matter whether he lived or died. So it's like living is the same. It's like it doesn't matter. Either one or the other. It doesn't matter. See, that's actual freedom or actual liberation. Another example or another story to consider. Ramana Maharshi at a young age had a massive enlightenment experience. Apparently he was at somebody's house, started considering death and laid down on the floor, tried to die, and had a massive breakthrough at a very young age. After that, looked around, other kids, don't want to play with them anymore. Mom and dad, I won't get it. Okay. And apparently they found him sitting in a crypt or some place, some location, and bugs were eating his body. Did he care? No. Because he was clear. Body doesn't matter. See, so what do? As my teacher would tell the story, and he's funny. So they say they dragged him out, cleaned him up, and made him teach. And then he taught. You see, and apparently at the end of his life, or nearing the end of his life, I think they found cancer in his arm. This is what I've heard. And, wanted to, but Romano, why don't you operate? Go to the doctor, get better. He said, why? Just let me die. Just let the body die. See, so that speaks to, in those stories, that speaks to a certain sort of what you might call detachment, what I'm calling freedom. Now, actual freedom, and then living it, not pretending it. That's a big difference. Living the freedom, really living. It doesn't, one or the other. I am free from both. Life or death, good and bad. Freedom. Freedom. Actual freedom. See, most people confuse freedom with getting what they want. Freedom in this case is I'm free to have or not have. That's actual freedom. That's real freedom. I could live, I could die, and neither would be a problem. See, like there's a story of an old Zen master he was the head of a monastery, and the emperor came and visited him. And after the emperor left, the Zen master said, I cannot be master anymore, and gave up the monastery. And they asked him why, and he said, because when the emperor came over, it mattered. You see, he wasn't free. He wasn't free from relating to that person, like free of the title, free of the authority, free of the image of him being an emperor. See, he was not free. That's an example of not being free. Whereas if somebody were free, theoretically, it wouldn't matter. Emperor or layman, doesn't matter. It's the same. See, that's freedom or transcendence or some such. So now if you could, see, going back to the question, see, whether there's a big difference between awakening experience and permanent enlightenment or liberation. So now an awakening experience seems more like a glimpse, whereas permanent enlightenment and liberation, key word here is permanent. Okay? If you consider, do you live your life where you can sit down and let bugs eat you and not care? Or you can go in the mountains and you're going to die and it doesn't matter? Or you could just lay and teach and it doesn't matter either way? That seems like it would be a drastically different experience than a glimpse of enlightenment or the truth or whatever you want to call it. Those seem different. Yeah? Now, even more important than considering that they are different, the invitation would be, look, go there. Be enlightened. Be liberated, and then speak from experience. I'm sensing that regarding enlightenment questions anyway, that the theme, there's going to be a theme here. I suspect strongly that I will get the question, and then I'll consider the question and then say, look, the answer that I've given you, so what you're getting from this video is a bunch of answers, is useful for the intellect or the mind, but it does not really get the job done. So, and ultimately, regarding enlightenment, it's complete trash and doesn't matter. I do not want following my mentor, whom I respect and love greatly. I do not want a bunch of believers and followers. I want real people who want and are committed to finding out for themselves what's the truth. You see, because that will serve much more powerfully than just hearing about a video, me talking on a camera. So go do it yourself. Yeah, but how do I do it? Okay, well, find a way. Become conscious, whatever's true. Start to question, like, who are you? What are you? And actually get an answer, so to speak. An answer, not an intellectual answer, but direct, what we call direct consciousness or direct experience. We can go into that later. You do it is the thing. Be responsible. Exercise the principle of responsibility, which does not mean like a mother, father figure is like, no, you need to be responsible. No, it's I'm going to do this whether I have a teacher or not. I'm going to get it done. Period. Don't care. You're going to help me, not help me, doesn't matter. That's being responsible. You take charge for your own life and your own consciousness. So I hope that answers a little bit of that question. What is the difference between awakening experience and permanent enlightenment and liberation? And then if so, what does it take to be liberated? Okay, now that's an interesting question, because it's like, what does it take? What do I do? How do I get there? How do I do it? Now, regarding enlightenment, you're already there. See? Now that is not, you're like, yeah, what? Part of the problem with enlightenment is people think that they need to go somewhere or get something or do something else other than what they're doing. You see it? No. You're already there. Doing or not doing does not matter. You could do anything or not do anything. It does not matter within the context of enlightenment. The way we're speaking here. So what does it take? It takes what we call like a breakthrough in consciousness. But then, see, that begs the question, what is consciousness? You have to be really, really careful about these things, because I said something. Now, there are other people in other spiritual circles or other lines of inquiry, other communities, other ways of thinking, perspectives, whatever, however you want to hold that will say, oh, a breakthrough in consciousness. They'll know what I mean. Maybe not. It's just the way really maybe not. And it's not the same. It may not be the same. So you have to be really, really careful when listening to people when they say stuff, because you don't know what they mean, what they really mean. So I said a breakthrough in consciousness. That's what you need. Does that mean you need to go somewhere? No. Does that mean you need to do something special? No. Does that mean that somebody else can give it to you? No. Does that mean that you can give it to yourself? Well, yes and no. It's weird. Because you're already there. It already is you. You just don't know what that is. Unless you do. Likely not. So what does it take to be liberated? It takes a breakthrough in consciousness. It takes you having a direct realization for yourself of the truth of the matter. What matter, you ask? You. We're not looking for another one, just you. And then you will find out what that is. And it just so happens, perhaps, don't believe me. You don't disbelieve me either. It's same. Both. You can believe or disbelieve. Both of those are in the realm of belief. I don't care about your beliefs. I don't care about my beliefs. Except the ones I care about. See, but at the end of the day, belief is a belief. Whether you dis or you do believe, it's the same activity. Belief is not what's true. So find out what's true for real. Oh, and it just so happens that if you do find out what's true, you may get liberated. But don't take my word for it. Okay? So now what does it take? Now it just does seem to take a concentrated effort. There are some programs, for example, sit down. Do you need to have... Here's some stories for you. There's a guy, Stuart Emery, heard tell. He got enlightened shooting a Pepsi commercial in India. He was a photographer. Another guy was driving across the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh, okay. Another guy, apparently, I can't remember exactly, but he owned a cigar shop in India or something like that. Just got enlightened, random, boom. Yeah. My teacher is talking about having many enlightenment experiences, none of which were in a retreat. They were after the retreat or just some other time. See? When I had my breakthrough experience, I was working on a completely different question. Huh? So there's no really rhyme or reason. It's just, So what I'm inviting you to consider here is just to be open that yes, a concentrated effort seems like it's necessary, but it's not necessary. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you have a direct consciousness, or, become conscious of what you are, what life is, what other stuff like that. Become enlightened. That's what it takes to get liberated. It does not take time, yet maybe it takes time. See, so these things can be tricky. And then again, yes, again, right. Yeah, this is going to come up, I bet, a lot. I received the question, if so, what does it take to be liberated? I can tell you, it takes you becoming conscious. Now, maybe it takes a lot of work, maybe it takes no work. And at the same time, it's likely going to take a lot of work. And so now what is the way that I can give the best value to you for asking me this question is to invite you to do it yourself. You have to go for it. The it in question, please do not make the it an object. Maybe it's not an object. Maybe it is an object. You have to do it. You do the work. I cannot do it for you. I can't tell you how many times during workshops I've said this. I cannot make it happen for you. If there was a pill, I would give it to you. I would manufacture it. I would give it to you. And likely I would be a billionaire and probably not making these videos if that were possible. But it's not that way. So what is the most value I can give to you, the listener, is to invite you to take it on. And then you don't have to ask me the questions or get answers. The answers at that point likely are irrelevant, and who cares? Really? Wow. Yeah. And then you'll go, why was I even asking that question? But then until that time, the mind remains curious. And you want to know, and you want to have some sort of resolution to this dilemma. What does it take to get liberated? What about this experience? What about getting enlightened? What about this? What about that? Yes, I understand. It can be fascinating. It's fascinating, and especially if a mind, especially if you've read a lot of books and or heard a lot of stuff, even cultural influences can be huge. The way your mind is set up and the curiosity with which you approach. And then you will ask these questions. It makes total sense, and I get it. I respect that. That's fine. And the most value I can give here is to get you to go for it. So then you know. Then you really know, and you don't need others. Because you will be the authority. And perhaps there's benefits to that. I'm just saying. But until such time, you will remain ignorant and intellectual about the matter because you have to. There's no choice about that if that's where you're at. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? So I hope that helped answer the question, what if so, then what does it take to be liberated? You just have to get it. So continuing on, it's I was raised in a Hindu family, believe that supreme purpose of life is moksha or liberation, breaking free from the cycle of death and rebirth. So again, until you've done that, we don't know what that is. So I suggest questioning, contemplating the matter. What is it? What is being talked about here? Yeah, so that's it for this video. Thank you for the questions. In addition to me answering the questions, also this is a bit of a practice for myself, answering them in a way that is trying to provide value, and I also get to practice being clear, etc. So thank you very much. I hope this video has been of some use. Take care.